Hello and welcome to Itsy Bitsy Book Bits. Today I'm reading to you from Love Habit by T.L. Clarke. Chapter 1, A New Dawn. Whether my limbs trembled more from spiritual awe or the sudden reluctance to part with my parents, it was nigh impossible to tell. Yet shake I did, as the magnificence of Darenth Priory loomed before me. The monastery was both daunting and wondrous in its grandeur, with the sun beaming down upon it. The large wooden doors of the gatehouse yawned open unto my future. God give you a good afternoon. Might I inquire as to the purpose of your visit? The sturdy man asked, bowing. God grant you good afternoon. We are Lord and Lady Upley, here to offer our son, Paul, to God, my father announced in his most booming, authoritative voice. The gatekeeper's eyes widened. I beg pardon, my lord. It is my sworn duty to check, you must understand. You should not wish me to be lax in this regard, I think, when your son lives among us. He bowed again as he spoke. My father clapped him on the shoulder. Of course, you do well. Have no fear. But might we now be granted admittance? But of course, sir. You are expected and most welcome. He stepped out of our way, his arm indicating admittance. Taking a deep breath, I followed my parents' lead. As my feet crossed the threshold, a rather odd sensation ran through my person. Warmth filled my entire being. It may seem superstitious nonsense, but it rather felt like a hug of welcome. I'm home, was my initial thought. The guest master was sent for, and he approached rapidly as permitted. That is to say, at a brisk walk, for surely monks must never run. He carried himself with both great confidence and respect, upright yet with a bowed grey-crowned head, and his black robes swishing. You are most welcome, Lord and Lady Upley, and of course your son, Paul, whom we are most gratified to meet. I am Brother Pharamond, guest master at Darenth Priory. He laid himself prostrate at my father's feet. Getting up, he said, Please, if you would follow me. Prior Ambrose is waiting at the guest house to offer prayers. Brother Pharamond had not raised his eyes once during the entire interaction, yet I was sure he had somehow taken in our appearance nonetheless. And I was suddenly glad that my mother had persuaded me to wear more modest clothing. In place of my tight shirts and short doublet, I now wore a long cotardie and looser doublet in duller colours. Even my poulain shoes had shorter spikes. We followed in silence. The stipulation was not required, as surely words would have failed me had I tried to utter any. My heart pounded in my chest so violently, I was certain it would interrupt the quietude. A tall man stood, his tonsured head also bowed, at the entrance of the guest house. His crown of hair was still quite brown, only lightly peppered with grey, and his face was not yet lined with age. I was struck with how great this personage must be to achieve the role of prior so young. He commanded my immediate respect. God grant you the warmest of welcomes on this most auspicious day, he called. Please do gather here, that we might pray. We formed a group in front of him, and he intoned a prayer before addressing us each in turn. Pax Domini sit semper vobiscum. The peace of the Lord be with you always, he announced, before issuing the kiss of peace once we had replied, Et cum spiritu tuo, and also with you. Upon entering the building, we were seated so that Prior Ambrose could read the divine law. With full blessing and knowledge, we were then taken into the dining area, where Prior Ambrose poured water on our hands and washed our feet. Suscepimus Deus, misericordiam tuam in medio templi tui, he said. We have received your mercy, O God, in the midst of your temple. Psalm 48, verse 10. Brother Pharamond repeated this. Finally, we were seated for our meal. My stomach was grumbling after our long journey. Having arrived after nones, as requested, We had forgone our midday meal thus far. As we are not in the refectory, and you are guests, I shall not insist upon silence, Prior Ambrose explained, but I shall say that there will be more time to become better acquainted once we have dined. As Paul is to become a novice, we thought it best to start his time here in the manner in which he will continue. I do hope you will find our simple fare to your liking. I had been expecting this, but my heart still sank. My family had somewhat spoiled me the previous few weeks, knowing we would soon be parted. Or mayhap they merely ate in their usual fashion following Easter, and I was simply unaccustomed to it. Either way, I had delighted in all manner of meats, but now no more would I partake in such fine delicacies. It was a passing moment of delight, that period of familial bliss, which I would treasure forever. In fairness, the vegetable dishes which were brought in were well prepared and plentiful. The ale is brewed here at the Priory, Prior Ambrose told me. It is a fine brew, I thank you, I replied, blushing that he had observed my enjoyment. I had licked my lips and closed my eyes momentarily upon my first sip. Brother Pharamond cleared our plates, but rejoined us. However, he came to sit by my side this time. The prior and my father were already engrossed in their own conversation. So, young Paul, you are to spend the next 4 days here with me. As I understand it, aye. You will soon see that there is nothing to be concerned about. We are a worthy community here. Unlike some, we still closely observe the rule of St. Benedict, firm but fair. During our time together, we shall meditate a great deal upon your future here. Your decision to become a novice must not be undertaken lightly, and we shall give it our full attention. Certainly, brother. My mother had remained with her gaze upon her lap. I noticed her fingers were clenched and her breathing hitched every so often. I had so often missed her whilst at school, and longed to offer solace now we were again to be parted, but it was not fitting. Was I never to see her again? She who had been all love and kindness. I thought my heart would break at the very idea. Lady Upley, perhaps you would like to see your quarters for the evening, the guest master offered. She offered a weak smile, her green eyes watery with unshed tears. I thank you, Brother Pharamond. We both followed the kind monk, leaving my father and the prior to their business. An exchange of moneys and deeds lay ahead, and I was glad of the excuse to escape the moment of transaction. I had arrived in the spirit of serving God as his devoted lamb, not one to be sold. I was no fool. The reasoning was plain, but there remained a sordid taste in my mouth all the same. This is where you shall sleep, Lady Upley. It appears most adequate. I thank you for your hospitality. It is naught but my duty. I shall leave the both of you to your privacy. Please rejoin us when you are ready. With that, Brother Pharamond withdrew. My mother sank down upon the bed, and I next to her. Oh, Paul, I am such a foolish woman. It is not as though we have been much in one another's company, but I always had our summers to sustain my fortitude. How will I— Her sobs stopped any further words. I bumped my shoulder to hers. Hush, mother. You shall set me about crying. Then the brothers will never want me here. Her laugh was half-hearted as she wiped her eyes. Fool! You would think that I would have gotten used to the idea by now. Your whole life, all 18 years of it, you were destined to arrive at this juncture, and to see you here I could not be prouder, truly. And yet it is hard now to part. It seems so final, I admitted, my gaze downcast and shoulders slumping. Patting my hand, she replied, Now, who is all gloom? What is this nonsense? I am certain we shall be permitted to visit occasionally. Indeed, let them try to stop me. I would tear the walls down brick by brick if needs be. I snorted at the imagery my timid mother invoked. It is not entirely forever that we say goodbye. Nay, of course it cannot be. That brings me comfort. And to me, my cherished boy. She pinched my cheeks as if I was still a child, making me grimace. Ruffling my hair, she lamented, "Oh, but these bountiful brown locks." "Ease yourself. They are not to be shaved off just yet. Even then, a crown of hair shall remain." "To me, you shall always appear just as you do now." She kissed my forehead. We really do it grow too sentimental. This is a joyous occasion. I shall be well looked after, giving you no cause for concern. And you are on your way to see your grandson. Be sure to offer my congratulations and love to my brother and his wife, won't you? Indeed, I am so happy that they are all safe and well. It is exciting meeting my first grandson. And don't think I know not of your plan. Her hands flew to her chest. And what is this scheme with which you accuse me of? Only that my brother's close proximity affords you a convenient spy. Would you have me kept ignorant of your condition? I have repeatedly promised to write to you. Ay, for all the good that will do, the prior will have to approve every correspondence. Whereas my brother shall sneak glimpses of you when he happens to have business here. I shook my head. Mother, you must not make a nuisance of Harry. As if I ever would, and do not think to instruct me on my conduct. Come, enough impudence. We shall return to see how your father gets on.